There's nothing more frustrating than feeling the shift is right there, right on the edge of your skin, but somehow it keeps slipping through your fingers, like you're standing in front of a door that won't open, even though you've knocked with everything you've got. You've journaled, you've visualized, you've asked the universe in 1,000 different ways, and still silence, still waiting, still no sign. It feels like a cruel game, like life is dangling the promise just close enough for you to ache for it, but not close enough to touch. And you start wondering, am I doing something wrong? Am I not aligned enough? Am I not worthy enough? And the mind does what it does best. It tightens the grip. It tries to calculate, manage, figure out. But here's the quantum truth. It's not that you're not close enough. It's that you're holding too tightly to being close. And that grip, that subtle tension in your body, in your breath, in your wanting, is exactly what's keeping you just outside the threshold. You see, in the quantum field, proximity isn't physical, it's vibrational. You don't magnetize the reality by chasing it. You magnetize it by becoming the frequency that already contains it. Not from need, but from knowing. Not from trying, from trusting. But most of us are taught to strive, to chase, to earn. So even in our most spiritual moments, there's a hidden agenda running, a vibration of not yet, of when it comes, then I'll feel peace, of I need it to arrive so I can finally relax. And the field responds, not to what you say, but to what you are. And what you are, in those moments, is fragmented, split between desire and doubt, pulled between presence and pressure, hoping but not resting, asking but not receiving. And that's what's holding you back, not your worth, not your timeline, not the universe testing you. What's holding you back is interference, static in your signal, the residue of control, the subtle noise of needing it too much, too fast, too specifically. Imagine trying to tune into a frequency on an old radio, and every time you get close, your hand trembles with urgency and knocks it off. That's what control does. It shakes your signal. It disconnects your coherence. And manifestation, true quantum shift, is nothing but a reflection of coherence, of signal purity, of frequency embodiment. So the shift you're reaching for, it's not blocked by distance. It's blocked by distortion, and distortion is born from fear. Not always the loud, panicked kind. Sometimes it's quiet, polite, even masked as motivation. But underneath, it carries a vibration of separation, of lack, of this isn't safe unless it's certain. And the field listens. Because the field is precise. It mirrors not your words, guys, but your coherence. So if your body is tense, if your heart is guarded, if your nervous system is bracing for disappointment, your frequency is fragmented, your magnetism is diluted, and your timeline remains on pause, not because it isn't ready, but because you haven't yet surrendered the interference. What if the only thing left to do is stop doing? What if the final step isn't another action, but an undoing, an unclenching, a softening? What if you're not blocked, just gripping too hard? This is the paradox of quantum shifts. They're instantaneous but not impulsive, immediate but not frantic. They collapse time, but only in the absence of pressure, because pressure slows the field, but presence accelerates it. And presence is what your body remembers when you finally exhale, when you stop watching the clock, when you stop begging the signs, when you become the embodiment of already, not just in thought, in breath, in feeling, in nervous system stillness, in heart-brain harmony. This is the secret edge you're dancing on right now, the tipping point between effort and essence, between wanting and becoming, between trying to magnetize and realizing you are the magnet. So if it feels like the shift is near but just won't land, maybe it's not the universe withholding. Maybe it's your own signal, cluttered by the static of too much needing, too much wondering, too much watching. And what it's asking from you now is silence, stillness, and a return to the frequency of trust. I know how subtle it is, the way you think you've surrendered, but you're still watching, still checking, still hoping with a little panic curled beneath your ribs. You're not wrong for that. You're human. You've been wired to equate vigilance with safety. That if you just stay alert enough, control enough variables, keep the hope alive, you'll finally get what you've been reaching for. But manifestation doesn't come to the one who waits hardest. It comes to the one who dissolves the wait altogether, because waiting is a frequency. It says, I'm not there yet. I don't have it yet. I'm separate from what I desire. And the quantum field, this precise, elegant mirror, reflects exactly that. The more you wait, the more you are made to wait. The more you watch the clock, the more time expands between you and your desire. It's not punishment, it's precision, it's coherence. And this is where your nervous system becomes your greatest ally, or your most unrecognized saboteur. Because when your body doesn't feel safe, it tries to control. When your body doesn't trust, it clings. And those micro-clenches in your chest, that restlessness in your belly, that urge to check your phone every 5 minutes for a sign or a message or a miracle, that is the frequency you're broadcasting. Even if your mind is saying, "I believe," even if your mouth is repeating affirmations. The field doesn't speak language, it speaks embodiment. So the question becomes not how do I manifest faster, but how do I become safer in my now? How do I regulate my body enough to stop gripping the future like a lifeline? How do I soften into presence so deeply that I no longer reach forward, I radiate outward? Because that's what magnetism is. It's not reach, it's resonance. It's the signal that says, I no longer need to pull it in, I am it. I've remembered myself into alignment. I've returned to the version of me who already lives this reality. And I've chosen to be her, not because the outcome is guaranteed, but because the frequency feels like truth. That shift happens not in thought, but in texture, in the felt sense. The breath that drops from your chest into your belly, the moment you unclench your jaw, the second your eyes soften and your spine lengthens, not from posture, but from presence. That's where timelines collapse. That's where the how stops mattering, because you're no longer living from the lack of it. You've crossed the bridge from wanting into becoming, and becoming is the doorway to receiving. But here's where the mind protests. If I stop wanting it, doesn't that mean I'm giving up? No, you're not giving up the desire, you're giving up the urgency. You're not letting go of the vision, you're letting go of the timeline, of the attachment, of the constant energetic surveillance. Because your vision isn't meant to be chased, it's meant to be remembered, awakened, embodied. And your only job is to become the clearest signal for it, to get quiet enough, regulated enough, coherent enough, that the frequency of that reality has space to land in you as you. This is not about doing nothing, it's about doing from a different state, from resonance, from alreadiness, from that deep inner click that says, I don't need to grip this anymore. I don't need to watch it every second. It's done. Not because I forced it into form, but because I've aligned my being with the timeline where it's already true. That's how quantum shifts unfold, not with force, but with frequency, not through willpower, through willingness, not by chasing, by choosing to over and over, to return to the body, to the breath, to the now, where the signal is clear, where the field is listening, where your only task is to remember, you were never waiting. You were only learning how to feel safe enough to receive, and it's in that moment, the one where you stop looking over your shoulder for signs, where you stop measuring progress like a scientist clocking data, that something starts to move, not always externally at first, but internally. A subtle click, a soft shift in the fabric of your being. The ache quiets, the air feels different, and without trying you breathe deeper, you laugh more easily. You look around and life begins to feel less like a test and more like a dance. That's the sign, that's the shift. Not the manifestation itself, but the you who no longer needs it to feel whole. This is the irony. When you no longer grasp, life reaches for you. When you no longer beg for the shift emerges from within you. Because manifestation isn't magic, it's mechanics. Subtle, vibrational mechanics. And the universe is listening for your coherence, not your craving. Your calmness, not your calculations. And that coherence only emerges when your nervous system is no longer bracing against time, against lack, against what hasn't happened yet. That's the alchemy. That's when the quantum field recognizes your signal as safe, stable, embodied, and begins to organize matter to meet you. Because matter, form, follows energy, and energy follows focus. But focus isn't just thought. It's emotion, it's breath, it's embodiment. You don't manifest what you think you want. You manifest what you feel is safe to have. And most people don't realize their system is still coded to associate their deepest desires with unsafety. Love feels risky. Success feels pressuring. Visibility feels exposing. So even as they ask for it, their body is quietly resisting it. That's why things don't arrive. Not because you're broken, but because your frequency is incoherent. But coherence can be reclaimed. It doesn't come from doing more. It comes from remembering more, from tracing the threads of your fear and gently loosening them, not by force but with tenderness, by sitting with your body in its gripping, by holding space for the younger parts of you that still think they have to earn love by performing, or stay small to stay safe. Because when you heal that, when you bring those parts into the light of your presence, your signal shifts, your frequency purifies. And the field can finally reflect what you are, not what you're still fighting. You can feel it, that moment when your shoulders drop, when your exhale deepens, when you stop needing the sign to prove it's coming, because now you know it's already arrived. In you, through you, as you. And from that space, miracles don't feel miraculous, they feel inevitable. Not because you controlled every step, but because you tuned your being to the timeline where it was already true. You become the version of you who doesn't wonder when, but whispers yes. The version who doesn't grasp at clues, but feels them unfold around her, naturally, rhythmically, like petals opening to the sun. You don't have to micromanage your frequency when you embody it. When it becomes who you are, not a trick, not a technique, a truth that lives in your cells, that walks with you into every room, that echoes in your silence and glows from your presence. And suddenly, the shift that felt so far away is here, not with fireworks, but with clarity, with coherence, with the kind of calm that doesn't need evidence to believe, because now you are no longer waiting for the quantum shift. You are the shift, you're living it, breathing it, and the field can't help but respond because that's the law, not a punishment, a precision, a physics of alignment, and you are finally aligned. There's a kind of magic that begins to unfold when you stop trying to prove your readiness, when you stop posturing for the universe, hoping your effort will finally be enough. Because here's the truth, the mind resists. The field doesn't care how hard you've worked. It cares how deeply you've landed, not in your vision, in your body, not in your checklist, in your frequency, not in the future, in the now. It's easy to fall into the trap of spiritual striving. To think if you just do one more practice, clear one more block, visualize a little harder, then it will happen. Then you'll be chosen. But that energy of striving, of fixing, of hustling for your worth is still rooted in lack. It's a subtle war against your own enoughness. And the quantum field, yes, it doesn't respond to your words. It mirrors your vibration. So if your vibration says, "I'm still not there," it will echo that reality back to you. This is the moment where the shift invites a deeper surrender. Not the kind that gives up, but the kind that finally sits all the way down inside your own skin. The kind that stops scanning for signs and starts becoming one. The kind that doesn't just say, "I trust," but breathes it, moves with it, lets it shape every interaction, every silence, every step. Because the version of you who lives in the timeline of your desires is already this soft, already this sure, already this whole. And that's what's been holding you back. Not the absence of the thing, but the absence of this frequency, this calm, embodied, grounded presence, the one that says, "I am no longer chasing alignment, I am alignment. I no longer beg the field to shift, because I am the field shifting." This is embodiment, this is coherence, this is the bridge between vision and visibility, between dreaming and being. And when you cross it, the need to manifest starts to dissolve, because you realize nothing is missing, nothing is withheld. There is only the reality you've become safe enough to hold. Safety is everything, not external safety, but internal, nervous system safety, emotional coherence, the ability to hold your own desire without collapsing under the weight of expectation. That's what unlocks the field. That's what clears the static. That's what opens the path. Because when your system feels safe, it opens, it receives, it rests. And the frequency of rest, real rest, is the most magnetic state you can be in. Rest isn't passivity, it's power. It says, "I trust the unfolding. I trust my signal. I trust that what I've become, the field cannot ignore. Not because I'm forcing it, but because I've finally aligned so fully, so honestly, so somatically, that the outcome is inevitable. It has no choice but to match me." That's not wishful thinking. That's vibrational law. So feel into this. What part of you is still holding on too tightly? What emotion are you trying to outrun with all your effort? Where is your body still bracing for the breakthrough, for the message, for the miracle? Can you soften there? Can you breathe there? Can you stop waiting for the future to validate your becoming and let your becoming be enough? Because once you do, you'll realize the distance was never real. It was only the illusion of separation, created by a nervous system still caught in survival. And once you regulate that, once you soothe those old patterns, the shift doesn't just feel close, it is here. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. Because you, the real you, the coherent you, the embodied you, is finally ready to receive it. Let's go deeper, because there's a silence inside you that knows this truth already. A quiet frequency beneath the noise that has always whispered, "You're not here to chase timelines. You're here to collapse them, to embody such profound presence, such unwavering alignment that time bends around you, possibility bends toward you, not because you fought for it, but because you finally stopped fighting against yourself." This is what most don't realize. It's not your desire that creates resistance. It's your doubt, the micro movements of mistrust, the split energy of wanting, but preparing for disappointment. The way you say "I believe," but your shoulders are still tight, your breath still shallow, your eyes still searching. The field reads that. Your frequency leaks through every micro expression, every pause filled with pressure, every smile hiding tension, and that misalignment, that fracture between what you say and what you feel, is what keeps the shift at arm's length. But you're so close. Not because the thing is coming, but because you are. You are coming home to the frequency. You are remembering how to be still inside your own becoming. You are learning the art of not reaching, but radiating. The art of not waiting, but walking as if it's done. That's embodiment. And embodiment is the signal the field cannot ignore. When you become the version of you who already lives the desire, the field must match you. Not because you ask louder, but because you aligned deeper. You stopped resisting your power. You stopped outsourcing your worth to outcomes. And you began to live, breathe, and speak from a timeline of inevitability. That's the shift. It's not something you make happen. It's something you allow through your own coherence. And coherence isn't a state you think your way into. It's a state you feel your way into. It's a nervous system that's no longer gripping the future, a body that's no longer contracting in fear, a heart that's no longer calculating how to be worthy. It's when your entire being hums the same note. No dissonance, no distortion, just the steady, quiet pulse of truth. And from that truth, manifestation becomes natural, effortless, like breath, like gravity. This is why surrender is the portal. Not surrender as defeat, but surrender as devotion, the kind that says, "I no longer need to hold this. I trust the field to hold it for me. I no longer need to chase the outcome. I choose to embody the energy. And in that choosing, I collapse the illusion of time. I become the timeline. I become the arrival. And the moment I stop grasping, everything I've been reaching for begins to reach for me. You don't have to figure it out. You don't have to push it into being. You only have to ask, can I rest here? Can I love myself here? Can I walk like it's already mine? And not to manipulate the outcome, but because it's the only frequency that feels like home. That's where the quantum shift lands. Not in your mind, in your marrow, in your mirror, in your every breath. And as you drop deeper into this, something begins to open. The static clears, the timeline thins, and what once felt impossible now feels inevitable. Not because anything outside changed, but because you did. You remembered who you are, and you stopped needing to wait to become it. You've heard it before, that you manifest what you are, not what you want. But what does that truly mean in the felt texture of your everyday life? It means that every moment you spend trying to become the version of you who has the thing, you're actually delaying it, because trying to become is a vibration of not yet, of distance, of lack. The field doesn't wait for you to get it perfect. It waits for you to get present, deeply, fully, undeniably present with the reality already inside you. And that presence, that intimate embodied knowing, is what reshapes the field. You don't need to act as if, you need to feel as now. Walk into the room like the version of you who doesn't need to prove anything. Move through your day like someone who trusts the timeline is not just coming, it's unfolding inside you, right now, right here, with every regulated breath, every surrendered moment, every time you choose peace instead of pressure. This is the subtle frequency shift that unlocks the next dimension. Not a loud declaration, a soft return, a return to self, to source, to safety. You become the coherent signal that says, I no longer need signs to confirm what I already know. I don't need evidence. I am the evidence. I am the embodiment of the timeline I used to chase. And now I choose to rest in the knowing that my frequency precedes the form, and in that resting, in that unshakable cellular yes, the external world rearranges. You don't have to push it. It bends. It bows. It mirrors your coherence. Because the field is neutral but not indifferent, it reflects exactly what you hold in your vibration, and when that vibration becomes relaxed, radiant certainty, there is nothing to wait for. The reality rushes in, not as a reward, but as a resonance. So ask yourself gently, where am I still performing alignment instead of embodying it? Where am I still striving instead of settling into the sufficiency of now? Where am I still convincing, scripting, forcing, instead of breathing, softening, becoming? The answers live in your body. They hum in the quiet moments, in the way you brace before you check your phone, in the tightness in your stomach when you think of the outcome, in the way you try to manage the magic instead of magnetize it. But what if you stopped all of that just for a breath? What if you chose in this moment to believe that the shift isn't ahead of you, but within you, that nothing has been denied, only delayed by the distortion of doubt, that you're not being tested, you're being tuned to a deeper coherence, tuned to a more stable receiving, tuned to the version of you who no longer needs to become because she already is. That's the real quantum leap, not a dramatic change, a subtle remembrance, a shift from wanting to being, from seeking to seeing, from needing to noticing. You don't have to wait for the world to change around you. Just change the way you hold the world inside you, not from control, from coherence, not from will, from willingness. Willingness to soften, to surrender, to stop trying to make it happen and start letting it in. That's when the timeline collapses, not by effort, but by embodiment. Feel this with me now, the softness of not needing to force, the quiet power of not needing to chase. This is the doorway. This is the dimension shift. It's not a leap you take with your feet. It's a falling inward, a dissolving of urgency, a returning to the body as your anchor, your oracle, your tuning fork, because everything you want is already encoded within you, and the field is listening for the moment you finally trust that, not perform it, not fake it until you make it, but trust it with the weight of your being, with the way you breathe in traffic, with the way you speak to yourself before sleep, with the way you sit in the silence without needing to fill it with questions. That's embodiment, and embodiment is how you collapse timelines, not through willpower, but through willingness. The willingness to regulate your nervous system enough to receive what you used to chase, because here's what changes everything. The field doesn't respond to urgency. It responds to coherence. Urgency scrambles the signal. Coherence stabilizes it. Urgency says, I need this or I'm not okay. Coherence says, I'm already whole. And in that wholeness, I open to more. The difference is everything. The shift is everything. And it happens not in your head, but in your breath, in the way you hold yourself through uncertainty, in the way you stop clinging to control and start becoming a safe place for your own becoming. That's the paradox. You don't get what you want by needing it more. You get it by needing it less, by becoming so vibrationally full, so energetically complete, that your desire no longer feels like a hole to fill. It feels like a natural extension of who you are. You stop waiting. You start being, and the field responds. Because it always does. It always has. It's just been waiting for you to get quiet enough to hear the echo, to feel the mirror, to recognize that the external isn't a test, it's a translation. So now the question becomes, can you stay in this state? Can you let coherence be your compass? Can you feel your way into the frequency of already? Not to earn your desire, but to become the version of you who no longer waits to feel free, to feel seen, to feel safe. That's the shift. That's the code. That's the timeline that's been orbiting your field, just waiting for an invitation, an opening, a frequency match. And the beauty is, you don't have to hold it perfectly, just consistently, just honestly, just with enough presence that your vibration stabilizes into truth, into trust, into coherence. And from there, life bends, signs appear, synchronicities increase, but not because you chased them, because you stopped interfering, because you became the still point in the center of your own universe, and the universe remembered you as the signal, as the source, as the shift. So here you are, not on the edge of the shift, but inside it, not waiting for your reality to transform, but awakening to the truth that you are the transformation. You are the collapse point, the quantum aperture. The field flows through you, not around you, and now that you're no longer gripping, it's flowing with less resistance. Because the block was never outside. It was never the circumstances, or the timing, or the universe saying, "Not yet." It was the tension in your own frequency, the subtle holding, the quiet grasping, the invisible fear dressed up as focus. But now you're seeing through it. Now you're feeling the difference between pressure and presence, between holding and allowing, between effort and embodiment. And in that feeling, in that cellular remembrance, the shift becomes not something you manifest, but something you live. You speak differently, not to manipulate energy, but because your voice carries coherence. You walk differently, not to attract what you want, but because you already hold it in your field. You meet life as if it's conspiring with you, because it is, because it always has been. You just needed to slow down enough to hear it whisper. This is what changes the game. Not information, not techniques, but transformation of state, of signal, of identity. You no longer identify with the one who is waiting. You remember yourself as the one who already is, already safe, already chosen, already aligned. And it's that identity, that energetic posture, that collapses the illusion of distance. You no longer walk toward the vision, you walk from it, as it. You become the echo of your own future, reverberating backward through the now. And in this state, you don't fear the void, you understand it. You meet the silence as integration. You meet the pause as preparation. Because nothing real can be lost, and everything aligned arrives right on time. Not by your clock, but by your coherence. By your readiness to receive without resistance, to allow without gripping, to expand without explanation. So take this in. You were never stuck. You were being refined, tuned, remembered. Every delay was a doorway to deeper embodiment. Every block was just a mirror, reflecting where your frequency was still fragmented. And now that fragmentation is dissolving, your energy is harmonizing, and the shift you felt so far away is not coming. It's already here, in the way you breathe, in the way you choose, in the way you stop asking when and start whispering yes. You don't need another sign. You are the sign. You don't need more proof. You are the proof. And from here, you magnetize not with hope, but with knowing. Not from force, but from frequency. Not because you got it perfect, but because you got present, deeply, truthfully, tenderly present with the reality already vibrating inside you. This is your power. This is your path. This is your quantum shift. Not someday, not soon, now, and the field is listening.